In this final section of the course, we'll focus on refactoring and polishing our web application. We'll see how we can improve the quality of our code, write tests, and add some nice finishing touches to our web store. We'll start off by exploring PropTypes, React's built-in type-checking mechanism that's completely optional and very beginner-friendly. If you have experience with typed languages, then this will all probably be very easy to you. Anyway, let's start by opening one of the first components that we've ever built, our base input component. So what we have here are three named props that are actually pretty important. The type property for our use case is meant to be either a text, checkbox, or password. The name property is a string that's really important for our onChange event, as well as for accessibility as it links our label to the input. And the label itself is a string that's really important. But we knew that there's a chance someone might forget to add it, so we used a blank string as a fallback. Now let's see how we could document and define this component with PropTypes. We'll import the PropTypes object from the PropTypes package. We'll then type baseinput.proptypes with a lowercase p and assign that to an empty object. And we'll define the name prop first as a string that is marked as required. Now the label apparently doesn't need to be set as required since we fall back to an empty string, but it would be much better to get rid of all of that and explicitly ask for the label and, set it as required. And finally, the type prop is something similar to an enum value. We can use proptypes.oneOf and then provide an array of applicable valid values and set it to required. Okay, so what does this code actually do? Well, it will analyze the props that are passed down to every base input component we ever create. It will check the props against this schema of prop types. And if it finds anything that's off, it will print an error message to the console. Everything will continue working as it would without this check in place. When you bundle this app for production, those checks won't ever be performed since they're only meant for development purposes. And we can actually see this in action right now. If we go to our account component, we'll notice something interesting. We never actually gave the text input field here a name prop. We thought we didn't need it because we only had a single input on the page. And while that might be true from a technical point of view, we still need the name property for accessibility purposes. And if we look at the browser console, here's how that error looks like. The stack trace is spot on, and it's clear what went wrong by reading the message. So let's go ahead and fix that. And just for testing, let's add an input that doesn't have a name or label prop assigned. And as we expected, we get two clear errors. Let's practice a bit on something different, something like the product card component. This one has something more going on, especially with this array of images or this boolean value down here. So let's give it a shot. We know that name and price are strings, and that they are required. Now for the images, they're actually an array of strings. And funny enough, writing that with PropTypes looks exactly as it sounds. The images are optional, so we won't be marking them as required. The withRemove prop is a boolean, which we just reference as bool. And the onRemove prop is a function, which we reference like this. Now there's a little catch here. Do you think you can spot it? Well, you see, the withRemove prop is an optional boolean, right? But if it's set to true, then the onRemove prop should be a required function. The two kind of go as a pair. Unfortunately, there isn't a very good way to express this using PropTypes. For more advanced cases like that, you'd have to use something like Flow or TypeScript. Union types, for example, could be a good fit for this case. So in review, prop types are a lightweight type checking mechanism that lets us write specs for our components. Doing so helps us catch bugs early and document our components so that it's easier to understand what kind of data they accept and what they do with it. Apart from the basic types, we also have enum values. But we also have something that's called a shape. Now, a shape is basically just a sub-schema for props that are objects. Here we see a prop called product that defines its own schema via PropTypes.shape. For more details on prop types and the full list of all supported operators, check out the official React docs. My advice to you is to make a break here and go through our client codebase, file by file, and document everything with prop types. Working on a team with multiple developers will usually mean you'll have to document prop types, so it's a good idea to get used to the API right now.